Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Do you feel that island in time that is Shabbat? Thank you to our incredible choir. Thank you to Rabbi Laura Rumpf, to Jacob Glickman, to Chava Morel, our music director, to our incredible choir, to Jordan and to Emma and to Gabriel Carlo, much. Our incredible director of our choir, and to Jamie Scher, who is the technological wind beneath our wings, and in fact helps us connect with those of you who only connect with us at home. And so we're going to take a moment, and Jamie, just let me know which camera. And we're going to take a moment, and we're going to turn our bodies in that direction. It feels a little kitschy, it feels a little weird, but let's say Shabbat Shalom to everyone at home. Shabbat Shalom. And then, I heard it. Did you guys hear that? So I feel like you all are saying Shabbat Shalom back to us. We're grateful to Louie and Kim who welcomed us. We have special guests here tonight, not the least of which is Diane Baer and our incredible rabbis, Jonathan and Beth Singer, all of whom we'll hear from during this service. A couple of people went, oh, so this is the perfect time to welcome one another, but here's what I'm going to challenge you to do. To not just say Shabbat Shalom to the person you know or the person you want to say Shabbat Shalom to, but also say Shabbat Shalom to someone who you don't know. And we'll take a few minutes to do that. And at home, just enjoy.
Just gone, but I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom.
It's always so hard to ask you to stop doing these Shabbat greetings, because isn't that what animates the space? That sense of connection, that sense of energy that gets translated across each person. So here we are. It is Shabbat. And we want to acknowledge with gratitude and with a sense of tshuva that this particular Shabbat gathering is happening on the ancestral lands of the coastal Salish people, particularly of the Duwamish tribe. And we also acknowledge here at Temple Beth Am, despite whatever Google might say, that this February is Black History Month. And so I'd like to begin with a quotation by Toni Morrison. Oppressive language does more than represent violence, it is violence. Oppressive language does more than represent the limit of knowledge, it limits knowledge. This particular Shabbat is a Shabbat, not only do we rejoice in the Jewish day of rest, but thanks to the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, we have an annual Shabbat when we lift up the voices of those who are immigrants and those who are refugees. And I think it's particularly poignant on this Shabbat of 5785, when there has been a recent executive order from our president that I think identifies this oppressive language. And so we, as Temple Beth Am, as a Seattle Jewish progressive community, should be very proud to be uplifting the voice of HIAS, and also that another faith-based group from the Northwest, the Lutheran Community Services of the Northwest, as well as several other agencies, have completed a lawsuit that is trying to overturn the executive order that talks about suspending refugee and immigrant resettlement programs. I share all this with you as an entry into our Shabbat to let you know that Judaism helps guide us in times when there's uncertainty, in times when there's volatility. And one of the things that we can learn from this week's Torah portion is that Moses named his sons two things: Gershom, I have been a stranger in a strange land, and Eliezer, God was my help when I was under Pharaoh's thumb. So tonight, we celebrate how it is in our DNA as Jews, as part of the Jewish people, as part of the generations of Temple Beth Am who have fought and hungered for immigrant justice. Tonight, this is what we celebrate. And so we would like to invite to light the candles of this Shabbat anyone who has volunteered in the last year for immigrant or refugee rights to please come up and join me up on the bima. I know some of you have been doing that. And here's who else we'd like to invite. If you are an immigrant, if you are a child of an immigrant, Richard Chakali, if you are a grandchild of an immigrant, Ruth Zlotnick. It is just, Dan just said, it's just about all of us. And this is why we lift up immigrant voices, refugee voices on HIAS Shabbat. And so may I ask you, Bernice, to do the honors of lighting the candle. And I'll just share that we have 3 candles lit, as we have since the Shabbat after October 7th, 2023. We'll cease lighting the 3rd candle when all the hostages are accounted for.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Each of you are here because the spark of the ancestors before us has inspired you to elevate yourselves to this bima. May you grow from joy to joy and strength to strength. Please be seated. And so We'll greet Shabbat as the generations before us greeted Shabbat by welcoming those angels, the angels that check and make sure that there's a sense of peace and a sense of wholeness that happens here. The melody we're about to sing for many of us is the melody of memory, and it is composed by Israel Goldfarb, who was born in Galicia in 1879, and then as a young man became an immigrant to New York City and trained at what is now Juilliard and the Jewish Theological Seminary. He was known as the first person outside of the Reform movement in North America to set Jewish prayers to music that had a modern lilt. Shalom Aleichem. It is on page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malachei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat practice throughout time and around the world has looked like many different things. But one aspect of Shabbat that has remained consistent for quite a while has been the active welcoming in, of inviting guests into our homes, into our spaces. And so now it's time, my friends, to welcome in the guest of honor, the guest of the hour, the Sabbath Queen, the Shabbat Bride. And so I hope you join me on page 20 for Lecha Dodi. We're going to go back in the book a little bit. And this evening we'll be doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. The words will be on the screen, and I'll help remind you of those of you who are using the Siddur tonight. Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Verse 2.
Shamor v'zachor b'dibur
Verse 1.
echad, Hishmi'anu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'lithilah. Lecha Shabbat nekabela.
Verse 2.
Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Verse 5.
Hitoreri, kiva orech kumiori, uri, shir daveri, kevod Adonai alayich niklat. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei
Shabbat nekabela. Verse 9.
V'boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emuneh am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
I have fond memories of hearing Chava's mother singing that when I was a little spunt of a kid back in the day. We're going to remain standing actually and turn to page 28 as we make our way into the formal prayer portion of our service with the Baruch Hu. Again, we are on page 28.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai.
You may be seated. There's so many transitions that happen in our lives that one can make the argument that it's almost as if life is just one big transition. And the Ma'ariv Aravim helps us take a moment to look outside, look out to nature, and just take a moment in this ever-flowing transition to just mark the moment and thank God for this transition always happening, right? That we're always shifting from day to night, night to day, from summer, spring, winter, fall. And tonight we have a special treat. This is a Chav Morel original melody, but for the first time ever, it will be heard with a choir accompaniment, choir arrangement. And it's something real special, so I'm excited for us all to be able to dwell in this musical space together. We are on page 30 for Ma'ariv Aravim.
שערים ובתבונה משנה עתים ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו
You heard it here first, folks. In a world that feels so separated in so many different ways, and so disparate, so ill-defined, and so, who knows, in so many ways, it's so beautiful that our tradition has woven into it a constant reminder in the morning and at night as we walk by the way that we should teach to our kids that underlying it all, there is a unity. There is something that's holding this whole thing together, and it's our job to just remember that and to hold that truth. And so we join in those words, that important, necessary reminder, the words of Shema on page 34 and 35, and I invite us to rise, body or spirit.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha Hayom alevavecha veshinantam levanecha vedibarta bam beshivtecha bevetecha uvlechtecha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha Ve'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Hotzeiti Etchem, Me'eretz Mitzrayim, Liot Lachem Lelohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Amen.
We're at an interesting point in the story of the Torah. Last week we had the Torah portion, Beshalach, which is where the Israelites were liberated from Egypt. And this moment, and so now we begin what happens after that, right? And this moment reminds me of an experience I had when I was saving up to buy my first keyboard. I'd saved up a lot and had all these setbacks in my finances that prevented me from being able to, in good faith, buy a piano for myself to play. And when the stars finally aligned for me to receive this instrument, it had been months and months and months of me setting up, an intention to save the money to get it all together. And I finally built the stand, put the keyboard down, and I was like, now I gotta learn to play the darn thing. That we work so hard to achieve this freedom, but also it's in the learning of that instrument that's where the freedom and say the music really happens. And so we're at a really beautiful point in our Torah portion where the Israelites have received their freedom, and I'm sure some of them wanted to go back to that place of beautiful gold and all the cats running around and everything, but we know that what's on the other side of this is so much more beautiful, and that's where the music is really going to happen. So we sing together the words of Micha Mocha, our prayer for freedom. want to take a moment to acknowledge with an immense amount of gratitude the choir and the musicians and Chava for just, what would we do without the music tonight, folks? I mean, truly spectacular. Thank you so much. And with that, my friends, it's time to move into the very central core of our Shabbat service, the Amidah. And so I invite us to rise and turn to page 46 in body or spirit.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Koneh HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol atah Rav leHoshia, Mashiv HaRuach u'morid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishene afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umidom elach, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
My friends, at this time, our service offers us a moment to just be, to just turn off our minds for a moment and be in our hearts. It can be interesting to ask ourselves, or just to extend our awareness to what comes up when we turn our heads off, or our minds off, what arises to the surface, and we can orient our prayer towards that. So I invite us to take a moment of tefillat halev, some prayer of the heart. And when you're finished, you may have a seat.
Last week, those of us who are here for Shabbat morning got to hear the Israelites' Song of the Sea, and we lingered on the verse, Ozi v'zimrat ya vayahili lishua, my strength, balanced with the song of God or a source beyond myself, will be a source of flourishing. We need songs that sing of a source beyond ourselves, sometime with that uplifting, rousing call to freedom that I know has us pulsing in this sanctuary. And sometimes we also need to share songs that feel like God's heart is breaking with us, and songs that are meant for struggling bodies and hearts in need of healing. We're including in our healing prayers tonight all those who have felt the impact of displacement, the threat of rights and self-expression taken away, and all of the beautiful mixed multitude in our community who are feeling the particular vulnerability of these times. I know there are many of us in this room who are thinking of specific individuals who are in need of healing. And before we sing our Misha Berach prayer, I'm going to let my hand pass through the room, and please share names out loud that you'd like us to hold with us as a community. Holding all of those names, we turn to the words of Misha Berach. They're on page 253, or I believe you'll see them on your screen in just a minute.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. It's now my great pleasure and honor to invite up my friend Diane Bear to share a conversation with me, and also to fulfill a little personal unlived life dream I have of getting to interview really cool people. If I wasn't a rabbi, I'd really want to be just a journalist following brilliant people. So that's what I'm going to embody here, and we're going to take just a moment to invite Diane up to our intimate little podium chat here. That was the plan, yeah. We'll just be right up close here. Thank you. And I'll also say y'all are getting the condensed version of the wisdom that this woman has to impart. We had the chance to sit down together in her living room not long ago and mull on light topics such as immigrant and refugee justice and what to do, intergenerational advocacy, how to make sure each and every one of us at TBA is involved. It was a rip-roaring conversation. So I have the challenge of holding us to time here. You'll get just a bissel in this dialogue of what we talked about with the commitment that among other ways that we get involved more deeply in immigrant justice, that we take time to hear each other's stories deeply and spaciously and let that move us into engaging in tikkun olam, looking for those small corners of the world where we have some action that we can take that serves as repair and serves as healing and benefits others. So thank you, Diane, for dedicating some time tonight for all of us. I'm really excited to talk with you. Okay. All right, so we have 2 questions here. And one thing that moved me most and was a little surprising that I didn't know, as someone who first met you as one of the co-founders of the Jewish Coalition for Immigrant Justice, among other critical advocacy efforts that you've led over years at Beth Am, is that you did not always consider yourself an advocate or someone who was deeply connected in their Jewish values with engagement in social justice, and that both of us have shared at times, and I know we're not alone in this room, a sense that is in fact timeless in our tradition. It comes from Moses' mouth himself. He says, Mi anochi, who am I in this moment to do this thing? Who am I to act? And even when we are exactly positioned in the right moment to do some modicum of good or to connect with another being, there's that question of who am I to speak up? And it sounds like there were things that helped shift you and motivate you from mi anochi, who am I, to who am I, to say what I have to say right now on behalf of immigrants and refugees. So can you tell me a little bit about how that shift happened?
It's nice to see everyone. I tried to think of that moment when that happened, and it's not a moment, it's a long story. And I sat down, tried to write it out, because as those who know me well will know that I am not, I'm talkative. I can talk, and I'm going to try to keep it short. The first thing I thought, well, how do I make that long story short? And I started to think about my years in Chicago, where I was born and raised, and very, it was almost like a shtetl. I grew up in what was, I think, the second largest Jewish community in Chicago. It was on the northwest side of Chicago, and there was so much Jewish culture, and I was just steeped in it. It was a conservative environment. Judaism was a lot of, talking about the culture and the holidays and some Hebrew school Torah. To be honest, I don't remember much talk about social justice in that frame, the way we talk about today, or certainly not, the activism and social, that should be one of our goals. And so I grew up in the 50s and early part of the 60s. I lived in Chicago until I was 21, graduated from college, and went off into the world. That's my mid-bar experience. I had become very curious about what other cultures there are. I mean, I remember wanting to go to visit the Grand Canyon. That was one of my great desires in life. And I ended up having this wonderful, magnificent experience where, for various reasons, I was able to travel around the country, going to parts of the country that literally there were very few Jews. And so I went from an environment where almost everybody was Jewish. Even though Chicago was very diverse, I didn't see that much of the rest of it. To visiting all these places in America where I ran into people. I ran into all kinds of people who had never met a Jew. I was the only Jew they had met. And as I went along that journey, I became more and more aware of the values that were a part of my identity, that came from my Jewish upbringing. And I began to be able to see a little bit more about how that connected to humanity, to society, what responsibility I might have in that arena. In 1970, I arrived in Seattle, and by that time, I was beginning to have firmer sense of my values and the idea of having a responsibility to make the world a better place. That was coming up in me. It was growing, and as I moved to Seattle and kind of set my feet down here and got used to life here, and I had a family, raised my 2 kids, met my husband, Jean-Loup, and it became important to me. I mean, up till that point, I was thinking, well, maybe I don't need to affiliate. I don't need, do I really need that? I was not, there were a lot of criticisms I had about the formality of the Jewish upbringing I had, but I loved Judaism, and I was highly identified. And eventually I decided to affiliate, and on top of that, I chose the Reform movement. It was like a conversion in my family. My father, I know he was not, at first, wasn't happy, but that turned out to be an incredible turning point in my life, because the Reform movement had, as a framework, a message about justice and social justice and humanity and everyone being created in the divine image. And those messages, really, I was really open to those messages, and I was open more and more to engaging and to figuring out, well, how can I engage? What can I do? So this is just to kind of paint who I am, as I'm just an ordinary person who, I had a good education. I had parents I was raised Jewish for sure, but I didn't have any special contact to being used to advocacy or going to talk to elected officials or having them come to our house or anything like that. But as I became more and more engaged, I wanted to learn more about what I could do to make a difference. And through the wonderful people that I met, some of them were here at Beth Am at the time. I joined Beth Am in 1976. And there were, I would use the term my grandkids would use, superheroes. They were just amazing people. The rabbi at the time was just an icon, Rabbi Hirsch at the time. And I learned so much, and I learned how to reach out, how to talk to people about these topics. I stopped feeling so like, oh, I don't know what questions to ask. I don't know what to say. I started to inquire and to question. And all along, I've always been, and I still am, an issue person. I'm not what I'd call, a movement person, a partisan person. I'm an issue person. I'm drawn to the issues which define the humanity and the well-being that our society provides, or the context of our society for all of us that live here. And the values that I definitely, gained from my life in Chicago and on, I was always taught to be kind and respectful no matter who. So that was kind of a grounding. But how did that fit into what's wrong in society and how do I fix it and what do I do? That came with learning and doing. That's what we talk about. We learn in order to do. And I see the Rabbi Singer in the back. They followed Rabbi Hirsch and provided just an incredible grounding in social justice work. A lot of the, I'd say the serious engagement that I started to involve myself in advocacy really began in the early 1990s, and that was just around the time that they arrived. I could go through a whole series of issues besides immigration, but I did want to mention in the mid-1990s, I engaged with a wonderful group called the Coalition for a Jewish Voice, and I saw Kay Slonim and Mark here, one of the founders of that organization. And I just want to point out that I became more interested. I wanted to do something, and I saw who was doing what I was interested in, and I reached out and I became interested and involved. And from that, over the years, I had more of a opportunity to learn more about how to do it well, how to bring others in, how to be a leader. So I think anyone here who wants to do or thinks they want to do advocacy and they think, well, I don't know how to do it, you can, you will. You
can and you will. I like that. Yeah. That's good. It's not a threat, it's an encouragement.
Yeah.
But I love that. Thank you. So speaking of issues and that you are an issue person and specifically what we are here to unpack a little bit more tonight, we talked a little bit about how we hear that love the stranger is commanded 36 times in Torah, and whenever we want to make a biblical case for why we focus on immigrant justice, and that number in and of itself is impressive. It's sacred, in fact, but it's the specifics to me of the biblical and rabbinic treatment of the ger, which is, stranger is one translation, but the sojourner, a person who's estranged from their home of origin or between statuses of citizenship. I think that's what's really moving to me, that those specific instances in which the ger is mentioned, we don't hear just of love, but we actually hear to know the soul of the stranger, that there's something deeply personal and resonant with anyone who's feeling estrangement or displacement. And the Torah is unequivocal in assuring that the ger, the non-citizen, however we want to understand that, is never oppressed for any reason, and that quite the opposite is treated with love and dignity and abundant generosity, let alone basic rights. And we've seen, and as you mentioned, Rabbi Ruth, that just in recent weeks, those imperatives towards basic human rights have been threatened. And the overwhelming response of the Jewish community standing in solidarity with immigrants and refugees is incredibly moving. And I imagine that we could all tell a story in this room somehow that traces our own family's lineage to some sense of displacement and having to relocate in a new home. So Diane, I want to know for you specifically, and this will be for everyone as we kind of disperse and talk amongst ourselves, what is one thing, and I'm seeing time from Jamie, so one thing that makes immigrant justice personal and urgent for you? Why this issue?
I would say that I am a first generation woman. I'm a daughter of an immigrant, and I believe that it is mandated of me personally, to ensure that this country that immigrants come to is safe and welcoming, and that the rules are clear, and that people that live by the rules basically aren't oppressed and treated with disrespect because of the language they speak or where they come from. I know that my own family experienced that, and I know that they rose above it, and they produced some pretty wonderful descendants. And I think that that's true for, I'd say just about all immigrants, most immigrants, I mean, yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
so I just want to help with that.
Thank you. And really, the Jewish Coalition for Immigrant Justice, among other organizations that you're involved in, is an incredible one to hear more contemporary stories and accounts of people who are coming recently to this country with unbelievable journeys, and who are also sharing of themselves in generous ways and allow us to come a little closer to what's happening in this moment for recently arrived refugees. And I want to leave us with a quote from Rabbi Samuel Hirsch, a different Rabbi Hirsch, but writing over 130 years ago about the rights of refugees observed. So he says, "The treatment accorded by a state to the non-citizens living within its jurisdiction is the most accurate indication of the extent to which justice and humanity prevail in the state." So the stakes of loving and caring for the stranger are high, and they're high for all of us. And first of all, I just want to thank you, Diane, for being courageous up here and sharing of your story, and I think opening the door. Hopefully we all hear a door opening to further engagement and possibilities for engaging in what's already happening. I feel incredibly blessed to be a new rabbi here and know that the roots run deep in terms of immigrant justice and social justice more broadly in this community, and that at this incredibly urgent moment in time, when all of us can have a role, that there are roles to play in this moment that are tangible. So in lieu of Aleinu, which is a prayer that says it is upon us, I want to say it is upon us to find some window into action. And we curated together, we were thinking about just a few things that you can, after Shabbat, after the rest, that it is also upon us to enjoy and embrace, and also extend to our neighbors and those in our midst. That's one of the specific biblical commandments, that the ger must also enjoy Shabbat, must also enjoy rest. But in addition to that rest, there are tangible actions, whether it's in the advocacy realm with JCIJ. The immigrant justice legislative session is happening now, and there's possibilities to help win funding for accessible health care for immigrants. That's something that you can get involved in. You can do direct service and more volunteer work. You were sharing just today that JFS was one of the organizations that helped your family when you were here coming to this country, and JFS is actively doing a collection now for school supplies and warm coats and different things that newly arrived refugees to this country will need. And in the realm of learning, I love that you lifted up learning as such an integral part of your journey, and that's true for me as well. We are committed to having a number of different ways of learning more deeply, both what is rooted in our textual tradition and learning from each other's stories and learning from the stories of those newly arrived to this country. There's going to be a special Shabbat morning Torah study tomorrow featuring sources that uplift the Jewish value of upholding the rights of immigrants and displaced peoples. So there's a lot of opportunities, none of which you have to memorize in this moment. They're all going to be made available after Shabbat. But by way of thanking you, I want to also honor our commitment to act. We learn and then we act, and that's something that we've talked about a lot. So Thank you for modeling that for us. Thank you for listening, and may we use this opportunity and this particular Shabbat, this HIAS Refugee Shabbat, as a catalyst to deeper action as a community.
And could I just say one little thing?
Oh,
one
yes.
more.
Yeah.
It's a continuum.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say that that Rabbi Ruth and has stood up in front of our community. We have partners now, friends that we've made over the years, starting when we first started to do immigration justice work, and we are stronger and stronger, and as stronger together. So we have to work together, and we can. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Diane. And as we're thinking about immigrant stories that connect us either to recent generations within our own family or generations past, and we come to yard sites, we come to the mourner's cottage. I know I'm thinking of and honoring memories of those in my family who made pretty harrowing journeys to be in this country and who made it possible for us to grow up on the West Coast. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm with all of you who are here marking yard sites. We are also here honoring the recent passing, grieving the recent passing of Micah Ellenson, who was a beloved rabbi in the Seattle area, among other pulpits. Just feeling that loss profoundly. And we're marking Shloshim for Joel Allen Larmore, father of Emily Cooper, father-in-law of Joshua Cooper, grandfather of Ben and Elliot Cooper. And we are marking the yard sites as a community of Albert Affolter, Marcia Alpers, Rose Alterman, Marge Bergson, Riva Bivak, Vera Baumsey, Michael Boss, Jeanette Britton, Joseph Cohen, Joan Henry Alexander Dickinson, Mary Fleming, Jerry Gordon, Ruth Golkis, Sydney Held, Pearl Hoffman, Walter Isaacson, Max Katz, Marvin Kling, Faye Kraft, Mimi Levine, Mitchell Libster, Anthony Lippincott, Edward Lippman, Ernst Magnus, Sidney Miller, Catherine Moore, Hyman Peisner, Harold Rogers, Evelyn Solomon, Ingeborg Schaffer, Florence Shane, Joyce Shikiar, Richard Silver, Rita Stern, Bruce Stone, Robert Harvey Tyndall, Lenore Wachs, Andy Westgard, Elias Wexler, Rhea Siegel-Wolf, Bernard Zalkind, and Lenore Zients. If there are any names I mispronounced or names that you would like to share with the community as we move to the mourner's cottage, I invite you to share the name and the relationship out loud. And if you are in a period of Shiva, marking a recent passing of a loved one, or Shloshim, first 30 days, or Shana, the first year since the passing of a loved one, I invite you to rise. And if you are here honoring a yard site, I invite you to rise. And as one community with kavod, with respect for our mourners, I invite you to rise however you are able on page 294 for the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach chiruteh ve'amlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh V'yetadar, v'yetaleh, v'yetalal, shmei dekudesha, b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. We say zikronam livracha, may their memories be for blessing.
I just want to say, with Project Bina, which is our feedback initiative that helps us understand what people want from a Jewish community, one of the things that we've learned is people love multi-generational conversations. So to you, Diane Baer, to you, Rabbi Laura, thank you both for demonstrating what it means to hold values that transmit from generation to generation to generation. How grateful we are to have all of you here and all of you at home. Ordinarily, my favorite thing that we've done, that's a fairly new minhag, is to take joy in each other's joy at this time. We're not going to do that right now, so here's your homework assignment. If you're at home, you are to share by text, phone call, or email joy with someone. And for all of you who are here, you are to share just something joyous that you experienced this year on your way out. I'm going to share something that is joyous and really in this moment when we're feeling the power of the values that can transmitted door to door. This week, we've had an opportunity to really celebrate the future of Temple Beth Am because we've announced that we have a new rabbinic partner. He's not quite a rabbinic partner yet, but Jesse Epstein is joining our vision and worship team, and he will be graduating this year. And so we're so grateful to have him joining us. And we are so very grateful to have Beth and Jonathan Singer, our rabbis, who helped plant the seeds, as you shared, Diane, so beautifully, the seeds of immigrant justice for so many of us who are active in Beth Am today. They were planted by the two of you. We've asked that Rabbi Beth and Rabbi Jonathan come up to lead us in our Kiddush and Motzi this evening. And we would love to hear from you if there's anything that you're thinking about as you're hearing all of this. Good job.
I'll just say for a second that it's so wonderful to be here. And we came here as rabbis in 1995. And I think that we brought a lot. We brought our social justice core with us. But this was a very particular congregation where congregants were pushing us to do more and to do more social justice. And that doesn't happen everywhere. So we feel very, very proud of that, how much the whole Beth Am, right, was responsible for the social justice work that we did together during that time. And we're so happy to see it continuing with Rabbi Ruth.
And we're so glad to be spiritually renewed by just how wonderful the services are and how you're leading it forward and planting the scenes with your leadership. It's great to be here with all of you. Let's join in Kiddush. Huh?
Well, everyone come on up. This is our Saturday Night Live version.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu
on up. Yeah. I get right up here.
Wait, now say the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon.
Shabbat Shalom once again to everyone. Thank you again to Jamie, to our musicians, Jordan, Emma, and Gabriel for leading the choir. And thank you to the choir. We're going to be closing with a song, Wherever You Go, I Will Go. The words will be on the screen.
Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, refugee. Where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie, refugee. Where you lie, I will lie. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Ancestors, where you go, I will go. Ancestors, where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go. Ancestors, where you go, I will go. Where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie. Ancestors, where you lie, I will lie. Where you lie, I will lie. Ancestors, where you lie, I will lie. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine.
May you experience a Shabbat of peace and a Shabbat where you do not feel like the stranger and where you welcome the stranger. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Please bring your Sidurim to Louie and Kim. Your Sidurim to Louie and Kim.